Perhaps it's a little unusual, there's two of us, but yes, it's the last talk of the day, and we will be talking, as Richardas mentioned, about our game Rivencrest and how we switched from Unity to Godot. But first, perhaps we should talk about what our game is even about. So this slide is straight from our pitch deck. I'll talk a little bit about what Rivencrest is. Perhaps some of you may have played it. I know some of you may have not. But it's a turn-based, tile-based game that is very deeply woven with Lithuanian mythology. So, for example, you can sacrifice gold or the special currency or even characters to different gods and then get rewards based on which god you sacrificed to. The game also focuses from the storyline perspective on the conflict between Perkūnas, which is basically the main god of pagan mythology in Lithuania, and Velnias, which is sort of the villain of Lithuanian folklore. But yeah, you can see the game here. 2D, very simple. And about a year ago, we eventually made the decision to switch from Unity to Godot. Now, some of you are not that technical. I know most of you are. But in this talk, we will discuss why do we even need game engines in the first place, the differences between Godot and Unity, what made us switch, and how exactly we made that switch. And then finally, we'll conclude if this was a good or a bad decision and where we will go next. So first of all, what even are game engines? You have Unreal Engine, you have Unity, you have Godot, you have GameMaker. I think that's x86 assembly. We'll get to why that's there a little later. But basically, game engines help us abstract away some design features. For example, you may not be interested in implementing your own physics engine. For example, you want a slime cube. How do you make slime physics if you only have the C programming language? You can get to creative decisions earlier if you simply use a game engine. Of course, perhaps you don't need one. You can create your own. Some of us have. Here's a meme from Twitter I found. Game devs after 17 weeks of working on their custom game engine. It's a polygon with different colors. Roller Coaster Tycoon was made with assembly. Didn't need a game engine to become a legendary game. But the conclusion is that game engines do make life easier.
Okay, so here we start. Unity, strengths and weaknesses. So Unity have basically the first strength is Unity has wide adoption and basically a wide community. You can ask like any question in the forums and most definitely you will get the correct answer. Unity Asset Store. You can a lot to do with Unity Asset Store. There are a lot of assets, a lot of like scripts, a lot of things that you can use. And if you are like a very small team and you need to create big games, you go there for like most of like everything from 3D assets like to basically scripts and functions. Strong 3D support. Well, it is strong 3D support. There are a lot of like functionality, like kind of accurate collisions. Okay. Let's start from I am basically VR game developer. And there's a lot of things that Unity supports, from like new frameworks, new functionality. Unity has multiple render pipelines, if you know what that is. Basically, a lot of things that Godot still need to implement or do. Versatile for web and mobile consoles. Basically, Unity is one of the best. It has one of the best support in industry. You can make like simple game and convert basically to any platform, from console to web to mobile. But of course, there's everything still needs a little work to do that. But with Unity, it's easiest. The weaknesses, basically, it is kind of closed source. You can poke a little bit around in Unity code and edit a little bit, modify it, but like there's a lot of closed code and closed functions that you need to maybe sometimes implement yourself. I'm a little bit nervous, but it's fine. Okay, so unpredictable decisions. So as you know, basically a year ago now, Unity made a very bad decision for indie developers especially. There was like big controversy about new runtime fee. So who does not know, it's basically Unity wanted to make the payments. We get payments by gamers opening the game. Like when each gamer opens the game and plays, we want to make payments. Unit ads. Well, it's not like directly Unity ads. Some years ago, Unity bought some ads company, and we basically Unity CEOs and like staff wants to make to use their ads, and we very insisting of that. Bloated builds and loading times. This is my favorite actually. With like any bigger Unity project, the loading times and building times is very like it consumes very a lot of time. For example, we released with other team the first VR project a couple years ago, and that project was building like in hours. Like I think at least 1 hour to take it to build it, and to open it, it was like half an hour. And we have Godot. So I think we are working now with Godot about the year, basically when the Unity runtime fee happened. So strengths, it's open source. So basically companies can use it freely. There's no like company that handles the basically runtime fees and other stuff, basically corporational stuff. Free, basically, yeah. It's totally free. You can download it, modify it as you want, and use it as you want. Lightweight editor. So yeah, basically this is one of the noticed things when we switched. I think our projects, like before the launch time was like 20 minutes, and now it's like in 2 minutes. And power of shader editor. So I like this one a lot because I was working with shaders a little bit before. So Unity has a visual shader editor it's very good. Godot still needs to basically catch up to it, but there's one very specific feature I love it. So who used the Godot knows that in Godot there's like a specific script editor that you can use, and you can write basically in that editor shaders, and it throws like the main errors. And like even if you're using simple IDEs for Unity, you don't see any errors until you build the project and launch it, and it's not specific either. The weaknesses. Less 3D support. So there's a lot of need to be done with 3D support. Like the main thing, I guess, what's missing in Godot is that when you launch in Unity the project, you can directly edit it basically. You can check where the object positions, how does it look, like what's the values. And in Godot, this feature is still missing, but like it's work in progress. Smaller community. Yes, it is smaller community, but it's very passionate community actually. Like if you write message or open basically GitHub ticket, you will get answered definitely, and it will help. We will help basically solve your problem. And specialized language. This is Godot uses basically GD script as the main language, and it supports C#. We are programming with C#, but like there's still missing features that GD script supports, and honestly, GD script is kind of awesome language. It does a lot, but you need to learn it, of course. And difficult part to consoles is, for now, there's services that do porting to consoles, but like Godot does not natively port to consoles. Okay. So yeah, the main difference is cost and licensing, flexibility in licensing, development workflow, and performance and build size. Now the decision why. Yeah, the first thing was the runtime fee. The second one, ethical and philosophical reasons. We decided even if Unity switches back, we don't want to basically use Unity anymore and wanted to support Godot. Cost efficiency and technical alignment. Yeah, the best part. This was our C# basically code in Unity. This is actually one of the main reasons why we switched to Godot. The Rivencrest actually was the passion project of one school student. Like he was starting this project like in 11th class, I think, yeah. And this was the first project, and like there's a lot of similar functions like fake update. So basically, like everything was updating and checking in update function, and there was a lot like fake update functions that checks like everything, like update and an update and in an update. Yes, the process. So basically, this is what we are using now. For Rivencrest, we rewrote like everything, literally everything. And do I need to comment about this?
I'm not sure. I guess we initially had just base action and specific ability, but due to the structure of Godot, we had to, well, perhaps this could be a challenge that we faced. We actually had to increase the number of inheritances that we used. So for example, now we need to create a resource, which we didn't need to previously do. And that resource contains other resources like image, text, which then contains the script for a specific ability, which inherits from base action, which inherits from tile action, which is also a resource. Which could be a change for the better, perhaps, but also it did complicate the code a little bit.
Yes, but in Unity version, like there was a lot of problems because we could have done the same thing actually in Unity. But the thing is that we already needed to rewrite like everything. I wanted to try Godot for a long time, and so we decided to switch. And one thing I want to mention about Godot, with like programming, um, the thing is that it kind of limits you. The Godot has Godot is based by nodes. So in editor you can create node, and you can add only one script to that node. So if you want to, like in Unity can on GameObject add like 10, 20 scripts. So in that way it's kind of limiting, but in our case it's kind of working.
But I guess I should add, our case is very specific. So we don't really have physics in our game. We do have AI and we do have tiles, but we basically made every system ourselves. So for example, in Unity, sure, you could have a rigid body. You can add physics to the rigid body. You can add a component for a collision box. You can then add a script for player, script for shoot, script for block, and so on. But our game is set up in a way where we don't really need that functionality. But I could see a scenario where if we did, perhaps it would have been a challenge that we would have had to overcome.
Yes, so basically to expand what Patrikas said, we created there's like limited functionality with tiles, even in Unity or Godot. We needed to add data basically to each tile and like manage all the tiles and everything. So we needed to create our custom functions, custom scripts.
And I just remembered with the original code why we rewrote it. So for example, with our enemy AI pathfinding actually spawned invisible enemies all around the grid to see if they could possibly go there. So if a tile was a range of 4 or more, the game would crash. So we had to limit it to 3 tiles initially. After the rewrite, we no longer have this issue. So this is just one example of 35, perhaps, why we had to rewrite every single piece of code. But the art style was pretty nice. The person who initially created the game in 11th grade, he was a very good artist. So we decided to stick with the game anyways, even though the code was terrible.
Yeah.
Right. So if you've ever developed in Unity, one problem you may have had is singleton management. So for example, if you create a singleton for example, saving in the main menu, and then you want to debug, for example, a specific level, you would have to either make a creative solution or start from the main menu, get to the level you want to debug so that you would have your singleton. With Godot, it's a lot simpler. You simply go into project settings, and then you enable a global variable, a script, or in this case, a scene that contains a script that you want to load. And it will just simply exist as a singleton forever. So that's actually very convenient. Furthermore, as Eligijus mentioned, everything is a node. So for example, in Unity, you have prefabs, you have game objects. In Godot, you have scenes, where everything is a subscene of something else. And also you have resources. So in the process of rewriting everything, we had to create resources for resources, create scenes for example, fog, or an eye object that you can spawn. Which is something different from Unity.
I can a little bit comment on that. But actually, it can be a good thing if you look from other side, because you can basically open each scene, and if you manage your code correctly, like for example, the code or everything else is contained in that scene, you can test that specific feature or object.
Yes, and that is very convenient, but once again, you do have to manage your code correctly. So modifying resources, for example, is a dangerous area. In our game that we are currently presenting in hall number 5 and 4, we in one area did not manage resources correctly. So leveling up increases damage all the time, and if you create a new save, that damage is still left from the previous save. You have to restart the whole game. It's a very simple fix, but it was easy to miss in the testing process at 2 a.m. Yeah, furthermore, there are problems with 2D. So for example, sprite sheets bleed over edges from different frames. So for example, we use an Asprite importer that in fact has different avoidance methods for avoiding these artifacts. Transparent spacing, solid color surrounding, and so on. This was an issue enough so that the importer would have different methods of avoiding this. Now Godot, I believe, is trying to fix this and will fix this in the next update, but this was a problem for a while, and specifically with 2D, we are making a 2D game, so this was something we had to try and find a workaround for. So before we switched to Godot, we would push everything to main on Unity. We would all be in the same room and raise our hands, hey, I'm pushing to main. Everyone would move their hands away from the keyboard, not touch anything. Okay, I've pushed, please pull. Oh, there's a conflict, let's try to solve that. That was our process. So we actually made branches after switching to Godot like a real developer would. We started reviewing the code because we would ask, who the hell wrote this? Click the little icon. Oh, it's me. Okay, 2 weeks ago. Damn, I guess I have to redo this now. And we actually started testing the game, which is apparently useful.
It is useful. If you are talking about like Git stuff, I would like to mention that sometimes Unity, like scene merging, are very pain in the ass. But like with Godot, you can actually read what's basically in the scene code and merge the conflicts and basically merge it correctly and solve conflicts correctly.
Right, yeah. Though with merging once again with Godot, on the other hand, there are these .import files that are specific to each computer, and we just simply haven't been able to solve the problem of someone pushing their .imports and then .imports of everyone else changing, and then having that show up in the Git changes as well. We still have not solved that issue, but it's only an inconvenience, as long as you have under a couple of thousand files.
So we're going a little bit by the end, going to the end. The results now. What we achieved? We achieved more modular code, but that could have been achieved like in any engine, I guess. Increased performance. That one is actually a big one. Before, like, I actually remember the FPS what was like before. You wanna guess?
I'm not sure. I'm guessing under 60.
It was 20.
Oh, right. It's a 2D game, by the way.
So easier to add features. Yeah, that's one. That is a big thing. We can like now add abilities or maps in, I think, in an hour could be possible.
Yeah, depends how fast the person drawing them can work.
Yeah. Future-proofing our game. Yeah, so that's basically goes with easier adding features. And community-driven development. That's actually very big thing, because Godot like improved in a year a lot, and each of you can basically improve the Godot and add to Godot development. And this is our,
I guess, our plan for the future.
yes.
Very optimistic, perhaps. We do have one person making all the cutscenes and all the maps and all the art. we would like 15 handcrafted environments by the same person. Of course, 30 levels and more, 6 hours of playtime. Currently, we have 3 levels, very similar, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah, the first thing we need to test and fix stuff.
Yeah, actually, if you've played our game, the 3rd level breaks every other time. So half of you, if you've played it, it worked, and the other half, it broke.
Yeah,
Yes.
and there's actually, I think it's a bug, but like if you're basically named a save file like our game name, it when you're trying to basically play the game, like load the scene, it infinity loops it.
Yeah, still in progress. Could be my fault.
Yeah, the summary. We took some time.
We've been doing this for a year now, switching to Godot. So
I mean, we already have the progress what we did, and we wrote every code, so it's okay. Yeah, changing to Godot for us at least it was a good choice. Like we now we can done at least in 2D side more than with Unity, and faster than in Unity. And test early and often, yes. We need to test, like, every developer I think knows that we need to test, like, everything and early, but it never happens. Or at least rarely happens.
we test in production.
And the QA.
Thanks a lot, Thanks a lot. Yeah, very interesting story, and like emerging and ongoing story. That's so cool that you're sharing it so well early, I guess, still in your process.
Yes.
Yeah, let's do questions. We have time. I'll try to run around.
And scan the code for a surprise also.
Thank you for presentation and congrats on switching the engine. And I can feel a lot of us have the same question for you. So I'm just gonna ask, do you have any plans switching to Unreal now?
Actually, it depends from project. Like, if you for 3D, I won't go back to Unity, of course. But like, if you want to make like more pleasing, like good-looking project, probably we will switch to Unreal. But like, if it's VR project that needs to be like done on maybe mobile, we will still be on Godot.
And another major reason why we picked Godot is because it also has C#, and Unreal Engine would be C++.
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, I'll go from this side.
Why do you hate GD script and spend your time with C#?
Actually, we don't hate it. It's cool language, but for us to switch to Godot was much easier to use C#. We still used some of the old code, like it was much easier to learn basically Godot functions for us.
And according to our Git page, it's still 9% GD script, so we don't hate it. We just 90%.
Actually, there are, I think, some scripts that use GD basically.
Yeah, but the main reason why you're not switching it completely is because you're still using some of the earlier code, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And it was easier to refactor.
Hello, thank you for the presentation. I have two questions actually. The first is, since you're making a 2D project, how is 2D in Unity compared to Godot? Because I haven't used Unity personally, but I know that Unity has like fake 2D with orthographic camera, while Godot has actually those specific canvas layers where the units are per pixel, so you know how much exactly 2D stuff you have on screen at any point, like all the sizes are comparable and so on. From your experience, like how is this, was there a noticeable difference in this regard?
Okay, yeah. For Unity, there is still a lot of like functions that and the functionality that is better. Like for example, lights. Maybe yeah, it's a little bit more like cost effective in Godot, but like if you want to create beautiful 2D games with like custom lighting and custom tiles and maybe like parallax beautifully and like other functionality, Unity is still there. And you can also do that in Godot, but it will take a little bit more time. And for us, basically, we did a lot in Unity. There was still before like a lot of faking, like lights, fog, and like other stuff. So it didn't notice as much.
Okay, thank you. And the second question is, you mentioned you felt a limitation switching to Godot that you could only have one script per node, basically, and everything in Godot that you can interact with in the editor for your games is either a node or a resource. Did you experiment with the alternative like way of composing your scenes composition, as in using multiple nodes with one script? Well, multiple nodes with one script each to create one scene object with multiple functionality.
So basically that is what we did, actually. We created the multiple scenes, basically added to one scene, composed it, and we got the things what we needed. I think actually I kind of like this limitation. It's my only personal opinion, because like before when we was working on Unity, like there was a lot of clutter, like 20 scripts on one object, and you don't even know like what does and how it combines everything.
Yeah, you'd have to click on a prefab or game object and still go through a list of scripts. Now you have to go through a list of nodes and then click on each one to check the script, which is similar, especially if you simply name it node 1, node 2, node 3, which sometimes happens in our project. My fault.
Yeah, but like we try to avoid those things.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I just wanted to ask any asset add-ons, third-party open source ones or whatever you used. Did you use any, and did you find any useful, essential ones?
So we needed to create a dialogue system, actually, and I thought, well, that's difficult. Let's just download something for Godot. And we did, and I pushed it to main on Friday at 5 p.m. As always, I'm pushing. But that actually broke everything, and we each had to reinstall basically everything all over again, go back a few commits, lost some progress because it didn't work and we could not remove it for some reason. And removing it caused everything to break. So we did try it. Eventually, we decided let's just make our own custom everything. It's a simple game. We don't need much. We would not go as far as making a physics engine, but for a dialogue system or something similar like AI, it's custom made.
Yeah, it's like if you was using like Unity add-ons, you probably know that it can happen in Unity too. We have like a VR project right now about clinical one, and we needed the mesh painting basically. We downloaded like 2 or 3 add-ons, and one of them was kind of working, and I still needed to modify the code.
Hello, thanks for the presentation. Have you used anything else but Godot, for example, default or even monogame with C#?
A little bit, but like that was a long time ago. I was writing I was trying to write my own engine, basically just for fun projects. Like that's very hard actually. If someone tried it, And I was using Unreal, so I feel it's kind of similar to Godot from at least from node perspective, and of course the Unreal is bigger and better, but it kind of feels similar.
Okay, do we have more questions? Turning around. Okay, well, please.
Hello, thank you very much for your awesome talk. I have two questions. So first, one of the reasons was why you switched was this licensing thing. So when new services and products enter like a new market, it's one of the marketing strategies is to give it out for free. And when they reach a critical mass, then they say, oh, now we're going to need some money. So aren't you afraid that Godot is going to at one point say that these donations aren't enough to feed all of us developers here, Godot, the ones who are developing the engine, and then are going to ask you some money?
I guess it's possible, but it is under the Apache license, which I think probably does not permit that, and anyone could ever at any time fork it and continue the free development side of things. Plus, it is being sponsored now by large corporations.
Yes.
Google, I think.
Google example basically sources the source forger for them to update the engine and fix some stuff. Like there's multiple indie companies who already released the game also sponsors the Godot engine. Like I think even if we succeed sometime, we will sponsor some money for Godot.
I hope so.
Okay, thanks. And second question was about this hierarchy thing you showed, where you said that now you have a larger hierarchy chain. Does Godot allow you to use like common software design patterns, like the component pattern or I don't know, service locator or stuff that are usually implemented in real-time applications to avoid such hierarchy chains and other code smells?
Yes, actually, I mean, if you are using for GD script, there's limitations. Like you can use it, use that, and for C#, it's basically just a C#, so you can write as you want.
Okay, we do have factories somewhere else in our code, but this is just an example of how it can be hard.
Composition, factory, like singleton, simple like things. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. We see more. I can ask a question. I don't know if you mentioned, all over the place. You're also part of KTO group. So is there any things in the studies already connected to Godot or still not?
Actually, there is. I don't remember in which course, but like there's a multimed studies basically in KTO, and in which course there are I don't remember first or second course. There's a module basically game development with Godot.
Nice. Yeah, that was part of these large discussions. Are enough people already have the ability to learn only by themselves, or there is some kind of already support forming from the academia?
Yes, and even as I'm lectured now, I have some modules like virtual reality with my colleague Andrews, and like simple project modules. So I see the growth of Godot, like Godot usage.
And about the game talking, is the original creator still involved, or there is a different setup?
Yes, the original creator still do our art stuff basically. Like everything.
Every frame, every button
everything.
is made by him, but just visually this time.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe last question. Last question of the event. No. One more. Do you know if more developers from Lithuania are already creating with Godot and something is announced? Because I don't think I know myself.
Well, in game jams, as I've heard, a lot more developers are now starting up with Godot rather than Unity or even Unreal Engine, which probably wasn't popular in the first place for game jams. But yes, there does seem to be a tendency to move more towards Godot, especially with the Indian smaller developers.
Yeah, it would be interesting. So if you hear about developers from Lithuania or in Lithuania or related to our industry working with the engine, so please let us know somehow. Yeah, this reminded me that I first actually found out about this topic in Estonia, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, and one lecturer from their Tallinn Technical University, how it's called, he was very active with promoting Godot and creating a lot of projects with students, and he released a game. I need to check how successful it was. But yeah, and I remember we talked that I should invite him to Lithuania to share this. So I need to put me a reminder to invite him because it was very interesting to listen to him. So yeah, I guess let's close it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.